our very first Marketing Monday. We're so glad you're here with us today. My name is Brittany Sweeney. I am the marketing manager for the Livestock Conservancy, so I'm really excited to kick off this brand new program. Our special guest today is Erin Link of EB Ranch. She is
Hello.
awesome and can't wait to be here. And we also have Ryan Carrington. He is our brand new breed association manager, and he is also a marketing expert. And so we're excited to have both of them on the show today. As the first one, we just want to say thank you for joining us and happy Monday.
Woo!
Yay. Ryan, do you want to introduce Erin and kick things off?
Yeah, so let's get started. Erin, again, really appreciating the work that you're doing. I kind of wanted you to tell a little bit of your story. I will mention, though, that you're raising currently San Clemente sheep. Am I correct?
San Clemente Island goats.
Island soup, goats. I don't know why I said
Goats
sheep.
over.
Yeah, goats. Ooh, wow. Yeah, it's been a long day, y'all. Mondays are crazy.
Totally.
Um, so yeah, I kind of wanted to hear your story, how you got the goats, also kind of your farming journey as well, and
hmm
then we'll continue on with the conversation.
Yeah. A really abbreviated story. Well, kind of abbreviated. I grew up in a farming community in western Wisconsin. All of my family were farmers or in agriculture on some level, and so I grew up playing in cricks and playing in the cow yards and doing all of the country girl stuff. But then growing up and being a teenager in a rural place, everybody's different, but I didn't like it. I wanted to get out of my rural community and move to a bigger city, and so I did. I moved to Madison, in southern Wisconsin for 10 years or so. And my partner and I in the Kenosha area were talking about buying uh, some property. And so we started looking, and we're looking around the Minneapolis area. We both had friends around there, and my family's all up around here too. And this one property kept on coming up on our listing, and I thought it was weird to be moving back so close to my parents. I was literally down the road from them, and we ended up buying it, and it was a great first buy, I guess, for people that were kind of greenhorns. It was 16 acres, a solid house, but everything else was kind of junky on the property. And this was in 2008, I think. So property, there was that housing fun stuff going on. So my partner sold his house and we bought this place for pretty cheap. But after living there for many years, we actually moved to a bigger property 5 years ago. But during that on the initial property, going into homesteading was our big goal. And so we got our chickens and we got our goats. And, looking at chicken breeds online, we ran into the Livestock Conservancy. And that place, like the website was just like amazing. I was on there like being like, oh my God, I got to pick out these chickens. These are so cool. I can't believe there's so many endangered livestock breeds. And so I had my first group of goats were a dairy mixed breed. And some years after having them, I decided to look for heritage breed goats to see what options there were. And so I saw the San Clemente Island goat, and I'm going to say it wrong, but the Arapawa goat. And so I looked the San Clemente Island goat up on Craigslist. And it was just random, but there were some for sale, like a couple hours away from me. And they're hard to find. They still are kind of hard to find. They're states away. Nobody in Wisconsin had them. So I jumped on it and I bought like my first group of San Clemente Island goats from this young girl, basically. She had them as a 4-H project, I believe. And she was selling, and I was just like, oh my gosh, they're like 3 hours away. I got to get them. And, I got some more from her at a later date. So I'm sitting on these San Clemente Island goats. And I was like, well, why did I get these goats? Like, besides us having these rare endangered goats. And so that's where it came into, first it was this more like, how can I promote a rare breed that turned into like making a farm business from a rare breed. Like they need to work. They need to work for us, you know? Like I
Tell us
want
more
to,
about that working.
yeah, yeah. It takes a while. Like I was doing a lot of numbers the last couple of days, actually, just running through old numbers and making new business plans. And the path that I chose was, like you had mentioned, was like, I'm like, I don't want to take on debt. And I knew this was going to be a long, long process of me working either full or part-time jobs while homesteading and while building a business. And like even specifically with like rare or heritage breed livestock, it's like there's a lot of other hurdles, and that could be building up your stock. Like even trying to grow numbers it was a challenge in itself. And so you're sitting there working through all of this stuff, and I just knew it was going to be a long path ahead of me. And juggling, customer service jobs and farming and homesteading and running a business. It's a lot of juggling, but that's the important part of setting goals for yourself, because you can see a light at the end of the tunnel as well. You know, you're not going to be like treading water forever, hopefully, you know.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, yeah. And those are important things to make for yourself. You have to be okay with like goals not happening, but you should have backup plans too, you know, or know when to just like move on. I think that's really important, so you don't burn yourself out, and you don't disappoint yourself or others maybe around you, or feel like you're disappointing others. So with a rare breed goat, I knew that I couldn't move into meat right away because I had to build up stock. And I was just trying to figure out what to do with them. And so that's why I chose goat milk soap. I milk them. The labels themselves promote the breed really well. They promote my farm. They're on, shelves, retail shelves. And I thought that was a really good way, or an introduction for people to like learn about the farm, learn about the brand, learn about the goats. And then that was, moving on from there. There's other things too that I do on the farm, like raising this broiler chickens or heritage breed chickens too for meat. And that's another good way to get people into your farm, and what you're doing is this more easy paths into your farm. So people can like, when you start talking about heritage breed San Clemente Island goats, that's a mouthful for people, and finding different avenues for people into your farm, I think, is important. So there's this like a lot of juggling that happens, but again, I think it's worth it. I'm a person that likes challenges like that, and I like to problem solve. So yeah, I think that's a
Awesome.
chunk of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you brought up, I think, something that's really crucial that I teach whenever I go speak at a conference about marketing pork and pig farming is don't just look at your livestock as just meat or just breeding stock. Be able to see how the byproducts or the animal itself can be able to tap into not just the, local farmers market, foodie world, but also beauty and cosmetics, right? I know people who are making salves, lip balms, and lotions out of lard, right? And they have their own cool taglines. And so I think you being able to infiltrate different markets, you're in the cosmetics or the skincare, beauty market, right? And so then that allows for you to entertain and engage an audience that might not have been thinking about supporting a local farm or even thinking about, local meat and local business. But then they see your soap and like, oh, this skin feels amazing. This is great. I was like, who is this person, right? And then you got them hooked on your farm, and that leads them to like, oh, you breed goats? Tell me more about these goats. I might actually want to buy some goats.
Yeah.
All right, big ticket item right there. It's really interesting how you're able to pull that off. Talk a little bit more about kind of that farmer balance between being able to work a completely different job and being able to also be a homesteader raising San Clemente Island goats. Also mention your co-op experience. I think that might also be really important.
Absolutely. After some job searching, I had told you about that when my partner and I moved back up here, and trying to find a job during that 2008 period was ridiculous. I told you I had a housekeeping job where I made $5.50 an hour.
Whoa, wait,
Yeah,
wait. Did you say 5.50 an hour? That
yeah,
ain't, did I hear you right?
that's gross. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Oh, man. Ooh, times have changed. All
It,
right.
yeah,
Oh, ooh. All right,
yeah.
continue.
Yes. And so of course, I mean, I knew that wasn't something long term. So I had applied for multiple other jobs, but I specifically was really had my eyes on the local food co-op in Menominee, the Menominee Market Food Co-op. And I finally was hired there as a cashier. And so, you don't really think about it at the time, but that was a big foot in the door to help me meet all of these people in the local food community. And part of the really neat thing about a food co-op is that there are so many walks of life that come into that co-op because they all have good, wholesome food in common. And so doing customer service, and chatting and talking and getting to know people was a huge boon. And then you get to know the buyers, and then you meet the farmers coming in, dropping off produce and like all of the products. And that was really valuable. And the general manager there named Crystal, she's amazing. She's still going strong today, even after a big, they moved to a much bigger building. And you just get to talk with people and have these, share these new great ideas. But I always had in my mind, like, again, having goals of like, the co-op was really good at accommodating my hours that I needed. I wake up early and do chores. They let me come into work, around 10 or 11, and I would come home from work and do chores again. And they were really good about that. But I kind of wanted to start weaning off from a full-time job year-round. So after working at the co-op for 8 years, I found this seasonal job at another CSA farm just 7 miles down the road. So plus that took out an hour commute round trip. And part of working at the co-op, another really couple of good aspects was that they also, allowed me to, well, not allowed me, but you have your foot in the door a little bit more too of selling your product and getting it on the shelves.
Right.
So that was
Right.
a really important step of this. Like, that was my first, practice guinea pig of like selling retail, on a store shelf was a huge step for me. And the co-op was really kind and generous and had some really great tips to help me move into that. And, eventually I ended up selling goat meat through them as well. They were my first place I could sell goat meat through. And so that has been a really valuable asset. And I think that's something we can all take a look at no matter what we're doing. Like, how can we maybe use what we're doing to help us some more? But yeah, so I always, wanted to like maybe have winters off, because one of my biggest things I didn't like doing was in the winter time when there's blizzards out, like, 40 miles one way. So now I have my winters off from a second job. I can just sit at home and not have to drive anywhere, and work on, doing things like this, like focusing on my business in the wintertime, building it, marketing, promoting in the winter, then go back to working, really busting my buns in the summertime, working another farm job, and then doing my farm here. So you just kind of I've learned how to manage 2 farm jobs in the summer, again, by knowing that it will end, but also like taking my days off from my second job and doing my more extensive farm work on those days. So I'm not incredibly burnt out. Like, I have an 8-hour day And then chores take 1 or 2 hours in the morning and another 2 hours in the evening. So I have, 12-hour days, some days out of the week. And making sure I have time just to chill out for myself too.
Which is always good because mental health is important.
Yep.
One thing that, as someone who used to farm, raise livestock, being a young farmer, you also being a young farmer, one thing that I've noticed within the young farming community is this desire to want to farm full time out the gates, and with their own farm. Kind of talk about why you decided to farm at other farms while also working this side business, and then how that kind of ties into being debt free or
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be debt free.
Mm-hmm. I was racking my brain this morning trying to think of people. I know a couple people, including the folks that I work for, that is their now only job as a farmer, is farming. But all of those people, including people in my age group or younger that I know that are farming, everybody has another income from their partner or from themselves or combinations of. And so it's realizing that even when I moved up here and started homesteading was really important because I have seen some of my friends jump into farming exclusively and they burnt out really, really quick. It was hard. Like new land, new house, like thankfully a lot of people stuck with, or I knew people that stuck with it, but I know a lot of folks that this like couldn't do it after 3 or 5 years because it wasn't doable. And so knowing that and having a juggle, I mean it's a lot of work sometimes, but having an income that I can rely on is so important for our our well-being and being okay with like I think it kind of goes back to being a farmer and being, wanting to be really self-sustaining and just like we just need to be a little bit more okay with knowing these realities. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I'll bring it back in. And so that was part of my plan with being debt free as well, was just like I'm going to, my first goal was having the San Clemente Island goats pay for themselves. And all the infrastructure that I needed, that I still need, tends to come in from my second job income. Just maybe 3 years ago, I was able to start paying for infrastructure through the money that I was bringing in from my business, which was a huge deal. I bought a pair of like tour boots. It's a big deal.
You're moving on up.
Yeah. And I was so happy with that. Like that was a goal. I was like, oh my gosh, I can pay for like $100 pair of tour boots that I really needed with my own business money. And so it's making these goals and taking these little steps. And again, that's part of like for me being debt free. Like I know people are better with math or finances and figuring this stuff out. I don't know how people can take on debt and pay it off. Like you just have to like, to me that's not doable for me. It's just not doable. And I know that about myself. And so this kind of, it's been a long process. I've been homesteading for 10 years, over 10 years. I started this actual business like 5 years ago. And I have a goal to hopefully in 2 years not have a second job, but we'll see. But at the same time, not having debt is incredibly relieving, I guess. I don't have something hanging over me. And I know a lot of people do. And that's a big issue right now for a lot of folks out there, is this debt. But part of that too, with not having debt, is a lifestyle that my partner and I are living too, which is generically saying a very homesteading lifestyle. So we grow a lot of our own food. I make a lot of my own cheese. I do a lot of trade and bartering with people. We raise our own meat. A lot of it is like on farm process. And so I kind of like for our consumption anyways. So it's like if I have a
Which we're
goat,
going to get into later in the conversation, by the way. We're going to get into that.
yeah. So that's something like, I was very curious about a lot of stuff too. Like, oh my gosh, how do I make my own alcohol with wild yeast in the air? That's amazing. Like our old place was a science experiment constantly. I had things in the windowsills, making our own pet food. You kind of find a happy medium. Like, I'm not going to keep making my own ketchup. I can just buy it. But it was really empowering to like learn how to make all of this stuff on your own and figure out how you can save money doing some of this stuff rather than buying a jar of kimchi. I can make my own kimchi for, so.
Right, right. One thing that I was going to say about your journey that I really appreciate is the fact that you were okay taking the slow route, the slow approach. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, in my experience of, facilitating dialogue for farm financing and being able to have a lot of conversations from people, try not to get teary-eyed, who have called me and have felt hopeless about their farming endeavors, how they've been getting burned out, or how they realize after 5 years of farming they're not making any money. Coming from that experience and then seeing how you're like, I don't want to be that. So let me take my time. Let me figure things out slowly. If it takes me 10 years instead of 5 years, that's okay. I really appreciate that spirit because it says a lot about you. And I think it will say a lot about your business going forward. But kind of going back to you being able to work with different co-ops, or the co-op in particular, it reminded me of community. And sure, we get all hippie and lovey-dovey, oh, community, community. But when you start getting into more of the marketing world, you start realizing how your community is also your network. And so I think that is super important. So really quickly, talk about some of the things or some of the people within your network, your community, that have kind of helped you thrive and how they've helped you thrive.
Yeah, I'll kind of go a little bit like timeline wise. I hands down the biggest thing that I have found that was helpful, that is like a huge privilege and advantage of mine, is having family where I moved back to. Like, it's kind of shocking when I look back and see. I mean, I have called my mom up to take me to the emergency room because I had popped my canning lid way too early and I had boiling water all over on me. And so somebody has to stay back and kind of watch the farm. And somebody had to take me to the ER. My mom just lives 4 miles down the road. She's super level headed. And I'm level headed, even though I thought I was dying. And so we got to the ER. My dad was, or still is, a tractor dealer in town. So, he knows people that can hook me up with like the things that I need for a good deal or a good price. Like, my family has been incredibly supportive. I feel, again, fortunate to have that. Not everybody has that. Actually, not maybe a lot of people don't have that. And then moving on from my family was just like networking with other local farmers. I mean, I knew the bigger egg farmers around, but there's all of these CSA farms around that I had no idea existed when I grew up here. They were always here. They're really cool, and within that was like this whole other community, kind of, we call them kind of like the blow-ins, or people that moved in from other places to do farming, probably in like the early 90s. And I got to meet all these people that were always there. I had no idea were there, and they've been really supportive. And this like I got my first garlic seed from this woman. I got all of this help and our hand-me-downs of things that I needed, because my partner and I had nothing when we moved up here in terms of tools or implements or anything like that. And then moving on from that was this like getting a job at the co-op, and this like really expanding out and meeting more farmers. And I think part of that networking is talking and sharing stories and giving support to each other. And moving on from that, I've talked about being part of organizations or being part of groups in town. Like I'm on the paper, the local cooperative paper, which is a rare thing in itself to actually have a physical paper being published. And then being part of Farmers Union is again another great organization that I like, that's been supportive in tackling a lot of good issues slowly but surely. And this being part of other like organizing events, fundraisers, and things like that. It's part of that networking all within it, to knowing about schools that exist that teach children to farm. It can go on and on. It keeps on like expanding out more and more to other communities, going all the way out to Minneapolis and reaching out to people that live in the city there. And they get the opportunity to come on farm and help me out with things. So it can be very far reaching or very tight in terms of community. Yeah.
And you mentioned you're having, I think you're referring to college students
Oh, yes.
coming onto
Yeah.
your farm to help you with processing chickens. One
Yeah.
thing I will say about you also raising chickens is you're not just relying on one enterprise, you have another enterprise. So if anything would happen to your goats, you still got your chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not putting all your eggs in one basket is super important.
Mm-hmm.
But going to on-farm processing, which we'll get into marketing, kind of how has it helped you with marketing your farm, and where do you kind of want to see that elevated to?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really happy that there's a lot of like things I know that I haven't mentioned, but reaching out into the local college is still a big goal of mine, and having that on people come on farm and help me process, which is this legal, like it's legal for me to do that in the state that I live in, for people to come in the day of and buy on farm processed poultry. It has been a really interesting journey in terms of that. I've been doing that for 10 years on a pretty small scale, and getting new people in to help with that aspect of processing and getting people, showing people how that's done, how that chicken goes from this feathered cluster to like this pretty package. And my favorite story is having last year, one of my friends is a professor at the Stout in Menominee, and he brought in these two women to help out that were, part of his natural science course. And so they had no idea, they've never done this before. I approach things as like, this is what you do. I don't make it gross or freaky. And it was really sweet for them to just come right in and go hands in with everything and be completely fine with seeing a chicken die in front of them for the first time, to like having this product. And I think it's just how you show it to people. And of course, I've had some people that probably won't ever come back again. Like, if this wasn't but it is like, you're not going to connect with everybody on that level. It's only you only match up with some, and that's okay. So, but I actually was just doing numbers for next year for poultry, and I want to process almost 250 birds next year versus like 100 this last year. And brainstorming with my friend that is a professor at Stout as to like, and even talking to you and offering it as an actual class. Like, I was like, woo! And this got me like super jived up and excited about next year, and knowing that I can organize people to come together and help out and be part of this and offer it as another opportunity for them to learn. And they get to see the farm like as it
Mm-hmm.
is. Everything is pretty visible from one area. So so that this opens up another doorway for people to come onto the farm, be part of that chicken aspect, but also still see the goats and see everything else. So, yeah.
Man, and then you're doing it with college students, and I think that's amazing because one thing that I've noticed in preservation of rare breeds is that you don't necessarily see a lot of young folk, but being able to kind of get them more involved and engaged really can make an impact on breed preservation, especially the breeds that we have on our priority list. Talk to us a little bit about, kind of what you're doing with the goats in terms of your marketing strategy. I know right now that you're selling goat milk soap.
Yep.
You're also selling meat shares as well as breeding stock.
Mhm.
How did you get to this kind of like, okay, these are my big three right here?
Yeah.
What's the strategy behind that, and then what's your priority between those three?
Yeah. I just really quick want to say too about like encouraging and being there for younger farmers. Like I think I told you I'll be 40 in a couple of months, so I'm like considering myself in this like other bracket, I guess. But I'm very well aware of like that weird ageism stigma that happens, and I don't like it. And I think it's important to be as open and embrace both younger and older. Like it's just a cycle that happens over and over again, and we need to be better at like at transitioning and then passing down onto younger generations kind of aspect. So that's thing that I'm very passionate about. I'm just like, this needs to happen, or we're gonna lose stuff. But going back to figuring out these enterprises with goats, part of what's kind of fun, but also you need to really learn quickly from it, is figuring out all these other things that you can do on your farm that might be like you might make money off from. And so goat milk soap is definitely up there. I'm still trying to figure out like the ebbs and flows of goat milk soap. Like right now it's gonna be busy season, it's winter holiday season, so I'm really preparing for that. But taking, after I had built up my herd and I was able to offer whole goat meat shares, chatting with other folks that raise goats, they're this, what do you do with all of these other parts of a goat, of like any livestock animal? You have this gorgeous hide, you have like, especially with these goats, you have these amazing horns and skulls. And so with that round, the first round that I took into the processors, I asked them, I'm like, can you save the heads for me? And
Not to be
so I'm like,
creepy.
yeah, they were like, excuse me? And I'm like, can you save the heads back for me? They're like, okay. So I went to go pick up my meat, and they had this garbage bag full of heads, and I lugged it in my car. And and so one of the women there, she's like, what are you doing with them? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna clean them up. Like I'm gonna bury them and clean them up really nice to sell skulls. And she's like, oh, okay. I don't know what you were doing. And so I actually I had finally done researching. I cleaned up these skulls really nice, and I just sold 7 skulls like a couple months ago. And they were,
Wow.
I mean, I'm a little bit maybe more open with like money stuff, but they were going for like $90 a pop, and people weren't blinking an eye.
Oh, wait, okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
I need you to repeat that again for
Yeah.
everybody. How
Yeah.
much are you making off skulls?
$90. $90.
Wow.
And these were ones that were this like pretty normal horn, like not the big bucks. And that was just me researching online. Like I had them cleaned up really nice, did my stuff with it. And, that's again, this a one-time sale. They're not going to be repeat customers probably. So that's just something to keep in mind versus like a soap product where they're going to buy on a regular basis. Same with meat. But so the hide, like I started practicing tanning this spring, and I was gonna do a tanning class, but COVID happened, so I canceled that. But I learned how to tan. So that's something I hope to do myself, as well as offering nice tanned hides for people with fur on. So yeah.
Man, so now you're gonna get into textiles too. So
Yeah.
we got meat,
Yeah.
we got a little bit of dairy, we got actual beauty cosmetics,
Yep.
and we got textiles. That is wow,
Yeah.
wow. But when you
Plus a
think
little
about it, though,
taxidermy.
oh yes,
Plus a little taxidermy with the skulls.
Yeah.
It's great.
but what I was going to say though is, kind of hearing your story, and I think a lot of farmers within this world have realized that you're learning things that were very commonplace
Mm-hmm.
on a farmstead, even as like 30, 50 years ago. And we don't have to go back to the 1800s or the 1700s. Even 30, 50 years ago, people were doing this regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just really incredible and amazing that you're able to kind of get all of that experience. Even though you're farming one animal, you're still feeding into all of these different areas and aspects of
Yep.
industries. So that is really amazing. I wanted to kind of talk about, because I know we're going to run a little bit out of time. I want to talk about some of the other areas of opportunities that you see for your farm in terms of making it more profitable, in terms of bringing in more consumer engagement. What are some aspects? I know when we talked about certain demographics within your region that might have more of appreciation for goat.
Mm-hmm.
We also talked about on-farm butchering, uh, potentially on-farm butter,
Yeah.
potentially, as well as doing pasture walks and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think a big chunk I haven't even looked into yet is my my small city that I graduated from, Barron, that's just 15 miles north of here. And this is an area that I really, really need to look into because there's a really thriving Somali community, and there's a restaurant there, and it's in this like little dinky home, like my not hometown, but a little dinky town where my graduating class was like not even 90 people. And so, um, you know, this is a whole different area that I have yet to like step into because I haven't had a reliable goat meat source. But I think once I get that figured out, like I would love to approach like the restaurant, and then I think approaching the restaurant will help open up all these other possible avenues of people wanting to buy whole goat from me in the future. And or this like even like there's so many, not so many, but there's other goat farmers around me that maybe I can help them connect to as well. I think there's always in my head is I have all these other people in mind sometimes too when I'm trying to network for myself. And so going back like to other ways of maybe getting the farm known, I guess I think you asked, but I have done some of this in the past, and you mentioned pasture walks, which is working with other organizations where people can come out and visit the farm and learn about grazing or how we manage animals out here. But there's other like fun things too, like the first weekend of Saturdays in December, I'm working with a local photographer who's also a small scale dairy farmer. And I am having a San Clemente goat, one of my bucks, Bigelow. I'm going to dress him all up as a Yule goat from like more in the Norwegian or Swedish tradition. He's going to have ribbons in his horns. And people are going to get like a holiday photo session with him. And
wow.
Yeah. So that photographer makes a nice chunk of money. And people get to meet a goat and know about the farm. I'll have soap set up. It's a good way to still socially distance with, between people with photo sessions. And so it's working again with other people in my community, another farmer that wears multiple hats, and helping her out and helping me out and getting the word out. And it's fun. I mean, who wants a picture with a goat? We all do.
And also for some people, that might be their first time ever experiencing San Clemente Island goat, or really any heritage breed. So this first introduction that you're making for these people is really crucial in a lot of ways, right?
Definitely. And I mean, this is a really good way again to reach out to young people, because I know there's going to be families there, and older generations as well, and it can make people really nostalgic. I think I mean, it was my grandpa that started off with milking. He had milking shorthorns, which I think are on the heritage list now. It was a very common cow, I believe, back then. And there's all these other opportunities, and I think it's that hurdle of COVID happening. Like, I was going to work with an old coworker of mine, and she was coordinating farm tours and for people to come out and visit farms, but buy product as well. And she really was more committed to having it not just be a tour to like cuddle with the goats, but actually like, here are the products that you should be buying to support the farm too. And
It's thinking about how, now that you have them hooked on with the goat being the hook, then you get to reel them in with all these smart. I like that. Keep going.
Oh yeah, and I don't know, like maybe going offshoot. I'm trying to remember everything that you had asked, but this, I feel like there's this like gambit of opportunities out there for farmers, and you just have to be okay with like putting yourself out there. Like, I have a journalist is going to call tonight. I've done some podcast recordings. That's happening. Getting comfortable, maybe in positions that you never thought you would be in. Like, I'm a very introverted person that's pretty shy, but having a business kind of puts you you need to like out of your comfort zone. And I think that's important for people to do. It's important to step into things you're uncomfortable in and embracing it and being okay with it. So, yeah.
Amen, sister. Amen. All right. So last round of questions, and then also, I know Brittany normally does this, but feel free to leave a comment, or if you have any questions, we're going to get to that. So, we're here talking about marketing. The reason why we market is so that way we can have not just outreach, but especially with a farm, being able to bring in some type of income. So I asked you two questions. These are two distinctive questions. What would it take for your farm to be profitable, meaning above breaking even? That's where we're going to leave it at. That's my definition of it. And versus, what would it take for your farm to be thriving, where you could live off that income?
I think so. I was just like really chewing on this when I talked to you last, and I'm really glad it's like I started running numbers again over this weekend. And I think it's just, I almost am hoping next year I would be able to take that step to being profitable the way that I'm running stuff right now. I think it's all about like, it drives me bonkers, but it's just like, I have product. It's just, and I have good product. It's getting people to know about it. So profitable, I feel like for me would be doubling what I'm doing now to thrive, to really thrive the way that I'm living and by myself. If I were living by myself, I would have to like at least quadruple what I'm doing right now, if not even more. And
so let's talk about that real quick. I know in our previous conversation, you had mentioned, or I had mentioned, what scale. So what scale are you currently at, and what scale would you need to be able to have, a profitable income? And then if you wanted to thrive off of it, what kind of scale would you actually need to be for that as well?
So how is a good way? I'm trying to think about how a good way is for scale. Like, are you looking for like numbers of poultry and goats? I guess because there's so many different, it's not hard necessarily, but there's so many different paths.
Facets. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so it's like, for poultry, I ran numbers through. I would have to raise 300 birds, and have those all sold and paid for as a facet and in addition to what else I'm doing. So like for me to thrive, it would be doing, like that amount of birds. For like breeding stock, I would need to sell 10 goats. And then for like meat goats, it would be 10. But also mixed in with that is that I have limitations too. I only have so much land. And so I only have like 7 or 8 open acres. So I can't have any more than 40 goats max capped off. And that's where it's a little bit tricky. And I guess that's kind of why I've gone into like, not necessarily why, but like looking at like goat milk soap itself. Like it's something that is not, it's not perishable. I can send it out everywhere and I can have a lot of backstock of. And so that's something that I know I can grow almost infinitely on. I think I'm over exaggerating, but I don't have a lot of limitations with the goat milk soap. I have limitations with the livestock and the poultry. And so it's looking at that too. It's so tricky to know what thriving, I mean, profitable, I can tell you more. Thriving and being able to like rely on that product always selling is really tricky. And so I don't really answer your question very well because I don't have a great answer for it either. But I think it's just going to be always running numbers to see when the tables were turned and when I feel 100% comfortable relying on what my business is. I don't know. I'm sorry. I did not answer that well, but my honest answer is like it's still a big question mark, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You're still figuring it out, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's okay if it is. Yeah, you don't have to have everything figured out. That's the beauty of it. You get to kind of learn as you're going what you need and what you don't need.
Absolutely.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, you're cutting in a little bit.
Hello there. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, okay, perfect.
It's Monday.
Yeah, I know in our previous conversation, you did say you wanted to hold on one second. I can't hear you.
You cannot?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
Ryan, I'm going to take you off the screen real quick so you can figure out what's happening. Let's see if that helps. It's always something, it's Monday. It's the beginning of the week,
Oh, totally. There's always technical things I feel going on. I'm happy that I am smooth on this end.
Well, while we wait for Ryan to figure that out, do you have time for a couple questions for people?
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome. Ryan, I'm going to add you here, so hopefully it'll keep coming through. Let's see. Lisa Marie says, good morning. Hi from Alaska. Hello, Lisa Marie. Thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate you.
Hello.
Hanson Heritage Homestead says, they're loving your story, Erin. Thank you for sharing. They also use the TLC to start their farm, so that's super exciting. Yay! Kay Poplar says, I believe Erin holds the record for the largest amount of milk given by a San Clemente Island goat. Kudos to you. Is that true?
I'm not sure. I feel like that's a whole different aspect, but I think there's some people out there that have some really awesome milking San Clemente Island goats. Just share a lot of the information that I get. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, this is a long one. We're gonna peer over it.
Cool. Yeah.
Sherry says, do you find that one form of social media, website, Facebook, Instagram, is more or less useful than others to get your name out? For instance, have you found there was one area of marketing that turned out to be now worth your time, or one that has brought more attention to your business than others?
Hmm. I think it's partly the format that I'm doing anyways. Like I have a Twitter account. I don't find it useful. I don't really like talk in short clips. I either have blogs or pictures. One thing that I found useful is having a MailChimp account, and you can actually use MailChimp to post the same thing to all these social media outlets all at once.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like Facebook and Instagram, they're basically owned by the same company anyways, or like business, and I use those exclusively, and I feel like they're both very useful. I'm trying to think of another social media outlet, like using a blog and mail. I think MailChimp has been a really useful tool across the board, and learning how to utilize it properly has been really nice. Yeah.
great. So do you have a newsletter that you send out through MailChimp?
Yeah, that's actually a really big goal of mine to do next year. Like I send out random. I don't have a really good schedule of sending things out on MailChimp. I was managing my own website before, but I moved to Barn to Door a couple of months ago, and so I don't have a blog option on my Barn to Door, and so I need to start utilizing MailChimp better as a blog format, and send that out on regular basis. Like, send out a promotion at the beginning of the month, send out a newsletter like bi-weekly or whatever. So that's something I still need to dial in, but it is something that I do.
That's great. Yeah, I find that consistency really helps.
Mm-hmm. Being reliable, being consistent is important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. Somebody else said, I guess somebody from us. Look, some farmers are trying an adopt a goat, cow, sheep, etc. program to help cover feed vet costs. Then they're sharing ongoing news, photos, videos. Have you considered this income stream?
That's interesting. I haven't heard of that, but it reminds me a lot of like I think it's Patreon, and then like I kind of did something like this for a Kickstarter that I did in 2017 to help grow the soap business, and that was one of the fears I had was people were able to name goats as they were born, kind of thing, and that was really a good way to bring people in and make them feel part of it. Like people love naming animals, like, and that's something I'll look into is adopt a goat, and see, because that sounds fascinating, and it's just a really inclusive way to get, or it's really inclusive. So yeah, interesting.
That's great. I love naming a goat. I think that's fantastic. That's super cute. Ryan,
Yeah.
thanks. You made it back.
Yeah. Technology. It's a beautiful thing.
It's
So now I'm
Monday.
doing it on my phone. Yeah, it's Monday. We're just gonna make that like the running excuse for today. It's Monday. Oh man.
The computer has a case of the Mondays. It happens.
Well, I wanted to ask one quick question relating towards the platforms that you use to kind of help market your product, mainly your goat milk soap, since it is the most popular item that you do have. List off some that you're currently using and other platforms that you're interested in getting into.
Well, I'm sorry. What that was breaking up for me a little bit. What was the whole question again? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Again, it's a Monday.
Oh, it's fine.
What are some platforms, whether just social media or marketing platforms, that you are currently using and wanting to use to promote your farm business?
Yeah.
Primarily focusing on your goat soap.
Yeah, we were kind of discussing that too, but I currently am using like Facebook and Instagram as my main social media outlets. I was just saying that I post to Twitter, but it's kind of a useless thing for me. It doesn't work for me. since I started my business, I got a Weebly account and made my own website that I had been managing. But right after kind of COVID, I decided to switch to the barn to door format as a more streamlined way to get product out there. And it serves as both, for CSAs, for veggies, for meat, but also for non-edible products as well. And that's one thing I knew about myself and how I present things on my social media, specifically my website. There's a lot of information, and I think people can drown in it. Where this is I had some other people built my website. They got it streamlined. It's really sweet. The store on it's really easy to use. So I was really happy to move that barn to door platform in those regards. And then working with a person on a regular basis to help me with marketing techniques, I think has been the most valuable aspect. One thing, I'm constantly talking to other farmers out there, and especially with COVID causing a bottleneck in our processors right now, we're really looking for other ways to, you have to change laws essentially, but looking for other ways to reach out to customers out there. And and again, I haven't really looked into it, but I had mentioned Rico Ring as well as getting farm product directly to consumers. So that's something I want to look into more. And actually utilizing my Etsy account much better. I need to be a lot more solid on that aspect, because that's what Etsy is this specifically for goat milk soap. That's a perfect platform for a product like that. And the same with the aspects that the skulls and hides, Etsy would be another great format for that as well. So I'm trying to think of any other platforms. I still want to do a lot more in-person meeting people at some point. I used to do a lot more going to stores and giving out free samples kind of thing, which will happen again today. But one thing I realized about myself, I'm not a big fan of going to farmers markets as a producer. And so I'm actually really leaning more towards social media aspects and this more tailored meetings with people. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now.
Great. Ryan, can you hear us?
Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. I was like, okay, just stay calm, Ryan. Stay calm. They don't know you can't hear them. I was like, what is going on? It's Monday. Whatever. Oh man. Do we have any comments from Facebook?
I think we have one more that came in. Diane says she's left the butcher shop with a bag of goat heads too, along with weird looks. So you're not the only one, so don't feel bad. It's a thing.
Yeah. We can start a goat head group, so that's all cool.
It's like they came out today. We have a goat head group.
Oh man, yeah, you might attract a couple of audience members that you probably don't want to attract.
I listened to a podcast recently on taxidermy from Ologies, and I learned the most amazing things. And the fact that you did your own goat skulls and are tanning your own hides, I think that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's a good skill to know and to actually have it turn out successfully too. That's always my big fear is ruining something or it being gross later on, but everything's good.
Well, sweet. I feel like I've asked my questions, and it seems like Facebook has also asked their questions. Just wanted to know what's a good way for people, whether they're listening to this on YouTube or on Facebook or on a podcast, what are some ways that they can connect with you, maybe even buy some goats? So,
yeah, there's the website is this ebranchllc.com. And that will take you can the contacts on there for my email and for the shop and a little about page. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, both a lot. And it's just like TB Ranch LLC for both of them. Yeah, TB Ranch products. Yeah. And those are like the main ways you can learn more about the farm and contact me. I really try. I mean, I keep up on emails fairly well. So, and then private messages and stuff like that too. So, those are really good ways to contact me and see what's going on. And I'm really happy to answer questions. I mean, I've talked about how I just really want to encourage and embrace, but also give people a realistic I don't know, a viewpoint or my own viewpoint on like what you might be getting into and what you might expect in the future too. So we're not, I just want to like, I don't want to say I want to wrap people in bubble wrap, but I just want to like, give people everything that I can so they can be successful. Like you talked about, like you were tearing up, like hearing about people's burnout stories. I also almost teared up because I've heard them too, and it's very. I don't want people to feel like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, that is awesome. So really quickly, for those who are kind of on the fence about getting a heritage breed, or for let's say people, whether they know much about livestock or all, what's a good pitch that you would give, 1 minute pitch that you would give, not just simply to the San Clemente Island goats, but also to just heritage breeds
Mhm.
overall?
I think that people should first learn about whatever breed it is you're getting. Even though it's a heritage breed, it's still a cow, it's still a goat, it's still chicken. They all need the same bases covered. So this research and find a mentor in that breed that you're getting. I'm not joking. Like know people and find people around you that can help out when you when your cow is giving birth and it's stuck. Like or whatever for any kind of event that would happen, it's nice to have somebody you can call that can come to your farm and help you. Like know who's there to help you, including vets. And then moving on from that, like start calling people that have that specific poultry or breed or horse and talk to them and pick their brain about like why people want that breed to exist and what are the uses that we can get out of that breed and
Hmm.
and try to find other people that are maybe making a business from that breed and then learn like what fits best for you. There are some breeds out there like that maybe aren't a good fit for you and making a business because of like they have really low numbers or they're really they you really need to work on certain lines or different aspects of the breed before you actually make a business with it.
Hmm.
So finding out where you want to go. Do you want to help a breed increase in numbers or do you want to make a business with it? I think those are two things a person should really look at before getting into any livestock period. You know, all of the basics and knowing what that specific breed might mean.
Well, shoot, Erin, we appreciate you, girl. We appreciate you so much. Again, a quick shout out to you and everything that you're doing. Thank you for your desire to maintain, preserve, and also continue the lines for heritage breeds. It's so important. And for those of you who are listening or watching, um, feel free to use Livestock Conservancy as a resource. Here's why. It's not just that we're important, it's also because we are working with different breed associations, different registries, different people who are having an interest in breed preservation. Any support that you provide to the Livestock Conservancy will not go to waste. This helps with programming. This helps with being able to provide training and resources to different associations. So feel free to check out our website at livestockconservancy.org. We have a lot to offer. We have a lot of things and programs that we're involved in. Um, Other than that, I will say donate, 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 donate. Not just simply your money, um, but also your time and your energy if you have the capacity. feel free to share this to everybody. Share it to your mama, your grandmama, your cousin down the road. Share it to your farm family and friends. Again, Erin, we appreciate you, girl.
Appreciate you.
Brittany, appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And I think that concludes.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Erin, again. We
Yeah.
appreciate you, and I'm gonna end our podcast. Everyone have a great week. Tune in tomorrow to Goat Chat.